Good morning, littles.
Teacup.
Good morning.
Teacup.
Yeah.
And a teacup.
Hmm.
Teacup. And a teacup.
Say good morning.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So I've been asked, many times, but I just recently was asked, and I have been thinking about doing this video since even before actually posting my first video. I just, didn't really put too much time and thought into it, but here we go. So this is more the story of Marley's diagnoses and how she ended up getting diagnosed so young with autism and the signs for us, the huge red flags that we could not ignore even if we wanted to put our heads in the sand. So Marley was 18 months when she was diagnosed, and she's 4 now. And, Marley just never really hit her milestones on time. She was really floppy. She had really low muscle tone when she was little. And my mom had a home daycare growing up, so babies were not a new concept to me. So, obviously when they're your own, it's a lot different. But, I'd been around many children and babies especially. So I always had like this instinct and this feeling something was up. I felt very envious of friends and family members with kids around Marley's age that were hitting their milestones and, just doing so well. So, and she just looked around the world like she had seen it before. With a baby, when you show them something like cool and new, they get all excited, they want to check it out, and it's like a natural instinct to learn and explore. Marley didn't have that when she was little. When she started getting a little bit older, it was more just running from point A to point B, not like, and didn't matter what was in her way. Even like when she never really quite crawled either. She did like an army scoot, which some babies don't crawl, and they can be totally neurotypical and nothing else going on. But with everything else, it was a red flag. It was a warning. People used to say, oh, she's an old soul, but looking at it now, that was obviously not the case. She was very aggressive, very aggressive. That's been mine and Chad, her dad. That's been our biggest struggle with her, because it's hard to, she can't keep friends. But when she was first able to like army scoot over to a little playmate, she shook him and made the other baby cry. And they didn't enjoy that. And Marley that's what she did. So slowly but surely, I stopped doing play dates because children didn't want to play with Marley. And that was really hard. That was really hard. It felt very isolating, and there was no diagnosis. There was nothing to like hold on to for a reasoning. It was just kind of like, what am I doing wrong as a parent? So she was very aggressive, and then she started becoming very aggressive towards our dogs, which children can do that and will do that. That doesn't mean that they're a psycho. That doesn't mean that they have a diagnosis and that they're have autism or whatever. But with Marley, once again, it was another red flag. She's not even a toddler at this point. She's a baby. And so, she would pull hair. She would just, I couldn't have her anywhere near other children in arm's reach, So, yeah. And then, there was another one too. When she was born, she had a look to her. When she was born, she had one eye like pushed up and closed, and she was breached, and she was like kind of like pushed up into my ribs. So that's kind of what we thought. But looking at it now, it was probably all of her issues going on as well. But nobody said anything, so I kind of let it go. She never latched. I pumped for 3 months, and by the time we got to like 2 or 3 months, she preferred the bottle. It was faster, it was easier. So I never was able to actually get her to fully latch and have successful breastfeeding. The nurses, you know, would come in because she would start suckling and then she'd just like it just didn't make sense to her to just keep going. And come to find out it's because she had sensory issues with her mouth. And you know, then the scratching and the screaming started. I mean, I used to joke and say, I can't believe nobody calls CPS on us because she's constantly screaming. And it's, you know, whether she's happy, she's mad, it didn't matter. It was always some kind of screaming. And, you know, she would attack us because, you know, we wouldn't let her go run in the street. And so she would like freak out and turn around and scratch her faces. And I'm not saying just a little bit. I mean, she would full on, and she was always like bigger for her age as well. So she would, you know, she was like 2, but she looked like a 3-year-old. So yeah, so she would start attacking. She wouldn't listen, screaming all the time. And you know, it was just, she ruled our house, she ruled our lives, and she was out of control. And everybody was like, oh, she's so sweet, she's so cute. Yeah, she is sweet, she is cute. Nobody ever says she isn't, but she was out of control. Like people still, I can't get a babysitter. The last time me and Chad have had a date, like I actually had to really think about it. I'll get back to you because I can't remember. So anyways, and it's not that people, like if I asked they wouldn't, but I just, you know, they have their own kids, they have their own thing, and throwing Marley into that mix it's a lot of work. So anyways, yeah, so she was ruling her life. She was out of control. And I basically went into her doctor's for one of her checkups. And I was just like, I can't handle this child. She's out of control. I was already kind of thinking like, oh, she might have autism. You know, I was like reading up on it. And then I was like, maybe I'm just be kind of like dramatic and I'm just having like a tough time. And she has like ADHD and she's just a wild child and difficult. But then there was like a lot of things that she just wasn't doing. She wasn't talking. Like she was talking like a little bit, but not like she should have been. And, you know, yes, and she couldn't do nonverbal communication with us, and it was just constant screaming. I had to guess what she wanted. So anyways, I went into her doctor's, vented, just said, look, I can't handle her, and she handed me the questionnaire. I filled out the questionnaire, and I mean, I was just like, yes, oh my God, yes. And then they called me, wanted to get her evaluated, and they had me fill out even more stuff. And, you know, these were like more scenarios that I'm like, oh my God, yeah, we've done this, done that. Yep. And it was crazy. And then, you know, we went in and, you know, we got her tested and they gave her the diagnosis of autism at 18 months. So, you know, me and Chad were like, okay, you know, that, like, it made me feel better in a way. Like, I mean, of course I don't want, you know, I didn't like, oh yeah, she's got autism. I was just like, okay, this is what's going on. Like, now what's the next step to like helping her, you know, helping our household, helping our family, and, you know, making our lives as rich as like, and loving as possible as we can, enriching the situation in our home and with our family, basically. And so, yeah, so we got into ABA fairly quickly too, and that was great. But I remember it's like, you know, as good as I felt with the diagnosis and knowing that we had help now and we can like give her behavioral therapy, there was always kind of like that doubt because she was so young that it was like, well, you know, maybe she doesn't have autism. Because then once we did the ABA, she really started like doing a lot better, because Marley's actually very like fairly smart, you know, she gets things, but you know, then there's things that she has extreme trouble with. You know, she can't do self-care. She still can't. And I know she's only 4 and that can change, and I don't know her future, and I don't know like how it's going to be. I'm optimistic, but I don't know. So we got the diagnosis, and there was people that doubted, and they weren't, it was a hard time. It was a really hard time. It was a very, like, I felt good because I had direction now. Like, I guess I personally needed that as a mom, and then plus, like, a lot more doors were open because insurance covered, the ABA and all that stuff. We were supposed to get her diagnosed through the regional center, and I know I still need to, and I'm going to, but I had an appointment to do it, and I talked to the lady the week before our appointment, and she was just like, well, she's already got ABA and blah, blah, blah. There's no reason to go through us. But that is not true. You should get them diagnosed as well through the regional center. But that's a whole nother thing. So we were doing the ABA. It worked great. Marley, like, blossomed in so many ways. Her nonverbal communication, because we learned how to talk to her. But the aggression didn't go away. And I think that's like the biggest part for us, is it causes a lot of isolation for me, and then as well for Chad too, and it's, there's been times where, we've taken her to the park and we came home and we're like, we're never going to the park again. Like, because she's like attacked children, and not just a little bit, but, like, one time, Chad went to the park with our dear, dear, dear friend, Marilyn, and we actually called her girls Marley's cousins, and yeah, and that's Auntie, and Marley, I guess, walked up to this little boy and, like, shoved her hand in his mouth and scratched the inside of his mouth, and I wasn't there, but I was pregnant with Marshall at home, and the grandma just is like getting in Chad's and Marilyn's face about it, and they're just like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you, sorry lady. But it's like, like stuff like that, like, drawing blood, and and she's a good kid, she's not evil. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there are times that I was just like, is this a serial killer in the making? And I'm not joking with you, like, I literally felt like she possibly could have been a future serial killer, because she would go after dogs, and and she would smile when she would see the distress on their face and the distress on children's face. But it's a stimulation thing, and like, it just doesn't connect up there, and she's not going to be a serial killer. It's, but getting off track again. So, yeah, then she got diagnosed with epilepsy, and they put her on some medicine, and she's been doing a lot better. She has, like, the smaller, I've seen seizures a lot more lately, I've been noticing, and she gets a lot more seizures when it's hot out. That happens with some people, high stress, heat, dehydration, all of it, and I think, the heat and the dehydration is a big one for Marley. And then when she got diagnosed, they did blood work and found out that Marley has 2q37 gene deletion. And I am not that big, like, that educated on it, or like try to really explain it. I need to, I don't want to, like, I don't want to put, like, bad information out there, or, like, whatever, because, these kids that have this and the families that deal with this, like, that, they deserve a lot more respect than someone, like, half-ass explaining it. But I will put a link below for the Unique, which has a lot of information on there, and I will do another video on it once I really get my thoughts collected on it. And so, but the 2q37 is something she was born with, and it is the root cause of her autism and epilepsy, which, it's funny, when we got that diagnosis, they were like, are you okay? Because I'm just sitting there, like, really, really pregnant. I'm like 8 months pregnant at this point, and I'm just like, yeah, I am fine. Like, I mean, like, we went through the autism thing, we went through the epilepsy, which was, like, the scariest thing I've ever gone through, like, thinking my child was dying, and, and then epilepsy was very scary to me. And then the gene deletion thing that, like, she's always had, and yes, it's the cause of this, but it doesn't change her, who she is. Like, neither did the autism diagnosis, and neither did the epilepsy, but that was just, like, this whole other level of scary. But, it's like, yeah. So I was like, I'm fine. You know, I'm like, I feel almost, and I don't want to come off like weird about this or whatever, but I almost feel like a lucky parent in a way, and I should view it in any kind of positive way as I can, because some people that have children on the spectrum, they don't know why. And for the longest time, I blamed myself. You know, I created her in my body, and I'm her mother, and I thought maybe there was something that I did that contributed to her autism. So, you know, knowing that it was not because of me, once again, I know it's selfish and self-absorbed, but it was guilt I carried around that I don't need to be carrying around. I should be positive. I should be her best advocate and the best version of myself for her. But yeah, so that in a weird way made me feel better, and it gave us more answers. And so, you know, we look at things on the positive side a lot more now that I'm like fully telling this story in one piece. Like, yeah. But yeah, so, you know, she was diagnosed at 18 months. Then she was diagnosed with epilepsy last year when she was 3, just turned 3. And then, yeah, she got her gene deletion diagnosis shortly later. But she's always had that. But yeah, so we switched her to a plant-based diet. Oh, hi, Hope. And so we switched her to a plant-based diet, and I do the MCT oil in her coffee. Yes, I give her coffee. It's, I think, stated in another video. Do not judge. I don't want to hear any rude comments. They will get deleted because she's a very hyperactive child, and it actually calms her down. And then also too, I want to add, Marley is only on medicine for her epilepsy, and she has calmed down a lot, and a lot of that has to do with she is now in a non-public school. She started off in a public special ed class, but they don't have enough. Marley needed more one-on-one. Her aggressive behavior was too much for the teachers to handle, and she needed a lot more assistance on a lot of stuff. But now she is in a non-public school that the district pays for, and she is blossoming. She is doing amazing, and I couldn't be any more happier with like the progress that she's been making lately. You know, that first they were like having her do like treats and stuff like that, which, you know, they didn't know, but that really contributes to more of these aggressive behaviors, and they're not doing that anymore. And, you know, things are just, I think Marley's settling in as well too. So I mean, she's doing amazing. I'm extremely proud of her, and extremely grateful to all of her teachers and staff, and her previous teacher, Miss Jenny, just amazing. Anyways, so yeah, so the CBD, and then we did try CBD oil for a little bit, but I guess it's not very good for the type of seizures she has. She has focal seizures. But yeah, and then yeah, so I hope that answers a lot of your anybody's question. You know, I will put the link below for the 2q37 gene deletion. You know, she's our little rare bear, I guess, and she's, you know, blossoming and doing better every day. Every day she is surprising us, and yeah, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. Like I said before, any negative, rude comments will be deleted right away. This is our story. This is how I view, this is from my point of view. You know, comment below if maybe you'd like to hear like Chad's point of view, probably very similar to mine, or if you have any like questions about Chad or for Chad. Yeah, so yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was informative. If you want more videos, hit subscribe and like, and we'll see you around.